It started with a sentence I never expected to hear from. Someone standing barefoot in the hallway at 7 a.m. Sunlight spilling over her shoulder like it had memorized her outline. My neighbor smiled, not shy, not bold either, just curious enough to be dangerous, and said, "You seem to be good in bed. Are you married?" For a second, the world paused. The kettle stopped screaming, the clock forgot to tick, and my heart decided to beat louder than necessary. I didn't answer immediately, not because I was offended, but because her words didn't feel cheap. They felt loaded, like a question hiding 10 others behind it. I replied honestly, almost instinctively, "No, I'm still waiting." That's when her smile changed. Not flirtatious, thoughtful. As if she had just discovered something rare in a place she wasn't even searching. Her name was Ira. She had moved in 2 months ago, carrying boxes alone, eyes tired but hopeful. We had exchanged polite hellos before, nothing more. But that morning cracked something open. We began talking about small things. First, coffee, work, silence, loneliness. She laughed easily, but there was a pause before each laugh, like she had learned to protect it. I noticed her hands tremble slightly when she held her cup. She noticed I never checked my phone. Somewhere between sips and stolen glances, the air thickened, not with desire but with recognition. She admitted she asked that question because men usually mistook her kindness for permission. But I hadn't. I admitted I'd been alone for years, not because I couldn't find someone, but because I refused to settle for a body without a soul. Her eyes softened. The hallway felt too small for the weight of the moment. When she finally left, she stopped at her door and said, "Waiting is brave. Just don't wait forever." That day, I couldn't focus on anything else. Nights after that, we spoke through the thin walls, sometimes literally, tapping jokes sometimes through long conversations on the balcony. She told me about her failed marriage, how words had turned into weapons and love into routine. I told her about promises I made to myself after watching my parents fall apart quietly. We were two broken clocks ticking differently, somehow keeping time together. And yet, every time the conversation drifted close to desire, we pulled back, not out of fear but respect. The building whispered rumors. People noticed, some assumed, some judged. But what they didn't see was the way we healed in each other's presence without touching. The real tension wasn't in the body, it was in the waiting. And every viewer listening right now knows that kind of waiting hurts, but it also transforms. If you've ever believed love should mean more than moments, stay with this story and don't forget to subscribe, because what comes next changes everything. Weeks later, the question she asked that morning came back in a different form, heavier and quieter. We were sitting on the rooftop, city lights flickering like nervous thoughts when Ira asked, "What if waiting makes you miss what's right in front of you?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked her what she was really afraid of. She looked away, tears forming but refusing to fall. She said she was tired of being desired but never chosen, touched but never held, praised but never protected. That night I told her something I had never said out loud, that intimacy without intention always left me, emptier than loneliness ever did. I told her that being good in bed meant nothing if you weren't good at staying, listening, and choosing the same person on ordinary days. She cried then, quietly, like someone finally hearing their own language spoken back to them. We didn't cross any lines that night. Instead, we made a promise. No labels, no rush, no performance. Just truth. Days turned into months. Our connection deepened in ways neither of us expected. We became each other's safe place. When she fell sick, I stayed up all night. When I doubted myself, she reminded me why waiting wasn't weakness. The world kept trying to pull us into shortcuts, but we resisted. And then one evening, she stood at my door again, this time dressed simply, eyes steady. She said, "I don't want to wonder anymore." I replied, "Neither do I." What happened next wasn't about passion, it was about presence, about choosing each other fully, without games or escape routes. That's when I realized her first question had never been about bed at all. It was about commitment, about whether I belonged to someone or was capable of belonging. Today, we still live next door, but we no longer need walls. We chose patience in a world addicted to speed, depth in a culture obsessed with surface. And if you're listening to this story, wondering whether waiting is worth it, remember this: the right person won't rush you. They'll recognize you. If this story touched something real inside you, subscribe to the channel. Because more stories like this are coming. Stories that don't just entertain, but remind you who you are. उस रात के बाद चीजें बदली नहीं, बल्कि गहरी हो गई। हीरा और मैं अब सिर्फ पड़ोसी नहीं थे, हम एक दूसरे के दिन के बीच का वक्फा बन चुके थे। वो लम्हा जहां दुनिया का शोर रुक जाता है। सुबह लिफ्ट में मिलना एक छोटी सी मुस्कुराहट पर खत्म होता, शाम को चाय की खुशबू हम दोनों के दरवाजों के बीच का फासला मिटा देती। लोग कहते हैं सब्र बोरिंग होता है, लेकिन जब सब्र किसी को समझने का नाम हो तो हर दिन नया लगता है। एरा धीरे धीरे अपनी कहानी खोल रही थी, कैसे उसकी शादी में बात करना खत्म हो गया था, कैसे उसके जज्बात को ज्यादा सोचना कहकर इग्नोर किया गया। मैं सुनता था, सिर्फ सुनता था, बिना सॉल्यूशन दिए। शायद इसीलिए वो मुझे और ज्यादा चाहने लगी, क्योंकि जिंदगी भर यूं से बोलने वाले मिलते, सुनने वाला नहीं। एक दिन उसने कहा, तुम मुझे छूना नहीं चाहते? मैंने सच कहा, चाहता हूं, लेकिन गलत वजह से नहीं। वो हंस पड़ी, लेकिन उस हंसने के पीछे आंसुओं की लर्जिश थी। उसने पहली बार महसूस किया कि किसी का रुकना भी मोहब्बत हो सकता है। महीने गुजार गए, एक रात बिजली चली गई, अंधेरा पूरे फ्लोर पर फैल गया। वो घबरा कर मेरे दरवाजे पर आई। हम जमीन पर बैठ गए, फोन की टॉर्च जलाकर। उस अंधेर में उसने मेरा हाथ पकड़ा, मजबूती से नहीं, भरोसे से। उस पल मुझे समझ आया कि उसका पहला सवाल कभी जिस्म के लिए नहीं था। वो पूछ रही थी, क्या तुम ठहर सकते हो? और मैं जवाब बन चुका था। जब बिजली वापस आई, उसने हाथ छोड़ दिया, लेकिन कनेक्शन रह गया।